Hey everybody, welcome to Leave No Taste. I'm Mark, and today we're going to make some egg noodles. So I'm going to start with 1 cup of all-purpose flour. We're going to make a small well in the middle of your flour on a table. I'm going to add 1 egg plus 1 tablespoon of water. Depending on what size egg you have, you might need to add a little bit more water if your dough is too dry and tearing apart, if you can't get a smooth dough ball. I'm going to add a pinch of salt, which helps with flavor and helps with gluten development as we knead this together. I'm going to get a fork and just slowly start to beat this egg in the water, and as I do, incorporate a little bit of flour from the side of the well. Eventually, this is all going to come together, and we're going to beat this into one dough ball that will rest and will make some pasta. Now, this process could also be done with a stand mixer or even with a dough attachment in a food processor, but I like to do it the traditional way. There's something really nice about getting your hands in the dough and making something from scratch. So that's the way I'm going to do it today, but don't by any means hesitate to mix this dough the same way in your KitchenAid or your Cuisinart, and the end product is going to be about the same. Now that the dough is coming together a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and knead by hand until I have a smooth dough ball that I'll rest to allow for a little allow for the dough to fully saturate, and then we'll roll it out and we'll cut some noodles. My dough is a little bit dry there, so I've just added a touch of water. My eggs are a bit unpredictable in size because I get them from the farm up the road. So sometimes I get the equivalent of a medium, sometimes I get the equivalent of an extra large, sometimes I get a large, but you can always just balance it out with a splash of water. Or some people like to add an extra yolk for added richness to the noodles, which I have no argument with if that's the route you want to take, but it's a very simple process, and learning to make your own noodles is very worthwhile. They're delicious, they're versatile, better than anything you're going to buy in the supermarket, and much more rewarding. So now that the dough feels nice and smooth to the touch and has a little bit of elasticity to it, it's going to want to pull back because that gluten hasn't had time to relax. So you're just going to shape it into a simple ball. So I'm going to go ahead and cover this up with a bowl. You could also use plastic or mixing bowl, anything just to cover it and keep the top from drying out, and it can rest for 20 to 30 minutes. We'll go from there. All right, our noodles have been resting for, well, actually about an hour because we went for a walk with our dogs, and instead of 30 minutes, they rested a little bit longer, but it's not going to hurt anything. Gives the gluten time to relax. You notice that the dough is nice and soft now, so we can roll out some pasta here. I'm going to go ahead, just because of my working space, I'm going to cut this into two and work in two smaller batches. Just put it down on a floured surface. I'm going to roll this out into, I don't know, maybe about a quarter to an eighth of an inch thick. You know, it's, again, this is one of those things with handmade egg pasta. You can roll it to the texture that you like. You can cut it in any shape you like. You can use the same recipe if you want to make big, wide lasagna noodles, or if you want to cut little strips of fettuccine. It's really up to you. And that's one of the beautiful things about making your own fresh pasta, is you can do anything that you want with it. I use the same recipe when I make ravioli. You know, you can make pockets out of these, you can make dumplings, you can, yeah, do anything you want. And that's the beauty of it. So once I've got this to a pretty even texture, you can use a knife, you can use anything you want. I'm actually going to use a pizza cutter here. So the best way that I found, flour the top surface, fold this over a couple times, and then simply roll through. And it doesn't matter if they're all exactly the same, like it's hand cut pasta. So you end up with nice noodles just like this. I'm going to go ahead and put these on a floured tray while I roll out my other dough ball. Now, these noodles could also be dried. They could be frozen if you hang them on an old wire coat hanger, which my wife despises. But you can hang them on a coat hanger. You could put them in an oven on a sheet rack if you wanted to dry them, and they'll stay good for months on end. You could create little piles of them like so and put it in the freezer and pull them out in one batch portions. I am just going to use these tonight. So you have it, egg noodles. We'll see you next time on Leave No Taste. Always make the most of the food you make.